Captain Jake Morrison stared at the holographic message floating above his desk. The blue light made his tired face look older than his 42 years. He had been reading the same words for 10 minutes now, and each time they made him angrier. The Galactic Council wanted Earth to hand over all human military ships to alien control. They wanted every human weapon registered and monitored. They wanted Earth to stop building new space stations without permission. Jake had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had fought pirates in the Outer Rim. He had rescued alien civilians from natural disasters. He had negotiated peace between warring species that had been killing each other for centuries. And this was how the galaxy thanked humanity. The door to his office opened with a soft hiss. Admiral Lisa Carter walked in without knocking. She never knocked anymore, not since the Council had started treating Earth like a child who needed constant watching. Lisa was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been Jake's mentor since he was a young officer fresh out of the academy. "You saw the message," Lisa said. "It was not a question, hard to miss," Jake replied. "They want us to be their pet humans. Good for doing the dirty work? Not good? Enough to make our own decisions." Lisa sat down across from his desk. She looked as tired as he felt. "It gets worse. I just got off a call with the Zephyrian delegate. He made it very clear that humanity is still on probation. After 15 years in the Council, we are still the new kids who cannot be trusted." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the busy spaceport of Luna Station. Human ships were loading cargo bound for dozens of worlds. Human crews were preparing to deliver food to hungry colonies and medicine to sick populations. Human engineers were maintaining the communication networks that kept the galaxy connected. All of this work, and the aliens still saw them as dangerous. "Children, what does Earth want to do about it?" Jake asked. "President Bennett is calling a full cabinet meeting. Every department head, every military commander, every colonial governor. This is not just about the military anymore. The Council is talking about limiting our trade routes. They want to inspect every human cargo ship. They want to approve every new human colony before we can settle it." Jake turned back to face her. "They are trying to control everything we do." "Exactly, and there is something else. The Council is demanding access to our faster-than-light drive technology. They want our quantum computer designs. They want our fusion power systems. They are not asking to share technology like equals. They are demanding we hand it over like we owe them something." The anger in Jake's chest grew hotter. Humans had developed their FTL drives independently. No alien species had helped them. In fact, most aliens had laughed when human scientists first proposed their theories. The Alterian Empire had called human physics primitive guesswork. The Quantum Collective had refused to even review human research papers. Now that human drives were faster and more efficient than anything the aliens had, suddenly they wanted access. "When is the meeting?" Jake asked. "Tomorrow morning?" "Bennett wants military opinions on what happens if we say no to the Council demands." Jake knew what would happen. The aliens would threaten sanctions. They would cut off trade. They might even threaten military action against human worlds. But Jake also knew something the aliens had forgotten. Earth had not been sitting idle for 15 years. Humanity had been learning, growing, and preparing. The next morning, Jake found himself in the largest conference room in the presidential complex. President Alex Bennett sat at the head of a table that could seat 50 people. Every seat was filled. Jake recognized faces from across human space. Colonial governors from the frontier worlds, military commanders from every fleet, scientists from the top research stations, economic advisors from the major trading companies. President Bennett was a tall man with kind eyes and a firm voice. He had been elected on a promise to stand up for human rights in the galaxy. Now he had a chance to prove he meant it. "Everyone has read the Council demands," Bennett began. "I want to hear from each department about what compliance would mean for humanity." Economics Director Maya Torres spoke first. "Compliance means economic surrender. The trade restrictions would cut our interstellar commerce by 60%. The technology sharing requirements would give away our competitive advantages. We would become a client state, dependent on alien approval for basic economic decisions. Military Chief Carol Davis was next. The defense restrictions are unacceptable. They want to limit our fleet size to what they consider appropriate for our population. They want veto power over our defensive strategies. If we comply, we lose the ability to defend ourselves or our colonies. Science Director Roy Phillips added his concerns. The research limitations would end human innovation. They want approval rights over our experiments. They want shared access to all our discoveries, but they offer nothing in return. This is not cooperation, this is exploitation. The reports continued for 2 hours. Every department painted the same picture. The Council demands would end human independence. Earth would become a managed territory, allowed to exist only at alien discretion. Finally, President Bennett asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens if we refuse? Admiral Carter stood up. Our President, I have been studying this question for months. The Council assumes we need them more than they need us. I believe they are wrong. She activated a holographic display showing galactic trade routes. 60% of interstellar cargo is moved by human ships. Our crews are faster, more reliable, and cheaper than alien alternatives. If we stop tomorrow, the galactic economy faces immediate crisis. Another display showed communication networks. Human engineers maintain the quantum relay systems in 17 sectors. Without us, whole regions lose instantaneous communication. A third display showed medical and food distribution. Human colonies produce food for 40 alien worlds. Human doctors staff hospitals across the galaxy. Our synthetic medicines treat diseases that alien science cannot cure. Bennett looked around the room. Are you telling me that we have become indispensable? More than indispensable, sir. We have become the backbone of galactic civilization. And they never noticed because they were too busy looking down on us. The room fell silent. Jake could see the same realization dawning on every face. Humanity was not the weak junior partner the aliens believed them to be. Somewhere along the way, while the aliens had been treating humans as children, humanity had grown up and become essential. President Bennett stood up slowly. Then I think it is time we reminded the galaxy what happens when you take your partners for granted. We are withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The words hung in the air like thunder. Chancellor Vexstar of the Alterian Empire was drinking his morning tea when the message arrived. He nearly choked on the bitter liquid as he read the human withdrawal notice for the third time. His forearms trembled as he set down the cup. In his 300 years of life, he had never seen anything so shocking. The humans were leaving the Galactic Council. After 15 years of membership, they were simply walking away. Vexstar's first reaction was anger. How dare these primitive creatures reject the honor of council membership? His second reaction was confusion. Why would they give up the protection and benefits of galactic civilization? His third reaction was the beginning of fear. Vexstar activated his personal computer and began running calculations. The numbers that appeared on his screen made his blood run cold. 40% of all cargo moving through Alterian space was carried on human ships. The humans had undercut every other shipping company in the galaxy by being faster, cheaper, and more reliable. Without human freight services, the Alterian economy would collapse within months. But the shipping was just the beginning. Vexstar pulled up medical records from across the Empire. Human doctors and human medicines had become essential to Alterian healthcare. The plague that had swept through the outer colonies last year had only been stopped by human synthetic treatments. No other species in the galaxy had been able to develop a cure. The Chancellor reached for his communication device with shaking hands. He needed to contact the other council members immediately. This was not just about hurt feelings or diplomatic protocol. This was about survival. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Susan Clark was packing her research equipment on the Kepler colony world. She had spent 5 years here, working to understand the genetic plague that killed thousands of Keplers every month. Human medical science had finally found a treatment, but it required constant production of synthetic plasma compounds. Susan's assistant, a young Kepler named Zixara, watched her pack with growing panic. "Dr. Clark, you cannot leave now. The plasma production facility needs constant supervision. Without the treatments, my people will die." Susan felt terrible, but she had her orders. All human citizens were to return to Earth immediately. The withdrawal from the Council meant the end of all cooperative programs. "I am sorry, Zixara. I taught your medical teams everything I could. The production process is documented in detail. But we do not understand the quantum chemistry involved. Our science cannot replicate the molecular bonding process you developed. Please, you must stay." Susan shook her head sadly. The truth was that even human scientists barely understood how their own synthetic biology worked. Humans had a gift for intuitive leaps that other species found impossible to replicate. What took human researchers months to develop might take alien scientists decades to understand. As Susan's ship lifted off from Kepler, she could see crowds of desperate aliens watching from below. Similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy as human experts, doctors, engineers, and teachers received recall orders. Commander Roy Phillips was having the worst day of his career. As the chief human engineer for the Nexus Communication Network, he was responsible for maintaining quantum relay stations across 17 sectors. Each station required weekly maintenance by someone who understood human quantum theory. Without that maintenance, the stations would fail within days. Roy had trained alien apprentices for years, but none of them had mastered the delicate work required. Human brains seemed uniquely suited to the kind of flexible thinking needed for quantum engineering. Other species could follow procedures, but they could not adapt when something went wrong. His communication device buzzed constantly with emergency calls from across the network. Station commanders were reporting system failures faster than Roy could log them. The Drachnary sector had already lost 3 relay stations. The Epsilon research colonies were cut off completely. The massive trade hub at Centauri Prime was working on backup systems that would fail within hours. "Commander Phillips," came a desperate voice from the Alterian home system. "The relay station here is showing cascade failures in the quantum matrix. We need immediate human assistance." Roy sighed deeply. "All human engineers have been recalled to Earth. You will need to manage with your own technical staff." "But, sir, our engineers do not understand the human quantum systems. If this station fails, we lose communication with half the Empire." Roy felt bad for the aliens, but he had his orders. More importantly, he had his pride. For years, the aliens had treated human engineering as primitive and unreliable. The Alterian Empire had publicly stated that their own technology was superior. Now they were begging for human help. The irony was not lost on Roy. While the aliens had been dismissing human science, they had quietly become dependent on human innovation. Human ships, human medicine, human engineering, and human logistics had become the foundation that held galactic civilization together. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Bennett was receiving reports that painted a clear picture of galactic chaos. Within just 72 hours of the withdrawal announcement, the galactic economy was showing signs of serious strain. Stock markets on major alien worlds had crashed. Trade routes were backing up without human freight capacity. Communication networks were failing without human maintenance. Defense Secretary Nancy Adams briefed the president on alien military responses. "Several species are mobilizing fleets, sir. The hegemony has dispatched ships toward our borders. But our intelligence suggests they are not planning an invasion. They appear to be preparing for internal security operations." "Internal security?" Bennett asked. "Yes, sir. Food riots on hegemony worlds. The human agricultural colonies supplied 60% of their food imports. Without human farmers and human food shipments, they are facing famine within months." Economic Advisor Helen Brooks added her own disturbing news. "The Nexus Banking Consortium is requesting emergency loans from Earth financial institutions. It seems their economy was more integrated with ours than anyone realized." Human economic models had become essential to their trading algorithms. President Bennett walked to his office window and looked up at the stars. For 15 years, humanity had been told they were the junior partners in galactic civilization. They had been lectured about their primitive technology and aggressive nature. They had been treated like children who needed guidance from their alien superiors, but the truth was becoming clear. While the aliens had been looking down on humanity, humans had quietly become indispensable. Human innovation, human work ethic, and human problem-solving abilities had woven themselves into every aspect of galactic life. The aliens had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed they were doing humanity a favor by allowing them into the council. They had never considered what would happen if humanity decided to leave. Now the galaxy was learning a hard lesson about respect and interdependence. The species that had treated humans as inferior were discovering just how much they needed the people. They had looked down upon Dot, and this was only the beginning. 3 weeks after Earth's withdrawal, the galaxy was falling apart. What had started as diplomatic shock had become economic disaster. Trade routes that had operated for centuries were now empty space lanes. Banking systems that had seemed stable for generations were crashing daily. Even the most powerful alien civilizations were struggling to maintain basic services. High financier Kalthara of the Nexus Banking Consortium stared at her holographic displays with growing horror. Red warning lights flashed across every financial market in known space. The Alterian Stock Exchange had lost 80% of its value. The Draknari currency had collapsed completely. Even the mighty Quantum Collective was requesting emergency credit to pay their military forces. The problem was simple but devastating. Human economic models had quietly become the foundation of galactic finance. For 15 years, human economists had been sharing their theories and systems with alien partners. What the aliens had not realized was how much their own prosperity depended on human innovation. Humans had developed predictive algorithms that could forecast market trends months in advance. They had created risk assessment systems that prevented the kind of financial disasters that had plagued alien civilizations for millennia. Most importantly, they had designed the automated trading networks that moved trillions of credits across the galaxy every day, without human oversight. These systems were failing spectacularly. The algorithms were producing nonsensical results. The risk assessments were completely wrong. The trading networks were executing transactions that made no economic sense. Entire planetary economies were being destroyed by computer errors that no alien programmer knew how to fix. Kalthara tried to contact her human colleagues, but all communication with Earth had been cut. The humans were not answering diplomatic messages, trade requests, or even emergency pleas for help. Earth had withdrawn from galactic civilization completely. Meanwhile, on the industrial world of Mechanus Prime, factory manager Zatok was watching his production lines shut down one by one. The massive automated facilities that produced everything from starship components to household goods were grinding to a halt. Not because they lacked raw materials, but because they lacked the human-designed maintenance protocols that kept them running. Human engineers had revolutionized alien manufacturing over the past decade. They had developed self-repairing machinery, predictive maintenance systems, and quality control processes that increased efficiency by 300%. Alien factories had eagerly adopted these human innovations, but they had never fully understood how the systems worked. Now, without human technical support, the machinery was breaking down faster than alien engineers could repair it. The self-repair systems were malfunctioning and making problems worse. The predictive maintenance was predicting failures that were not happening while missing real problems. The quality control was rejecting perfectly good products while approving defective ones. Zatok had sent desperate messages to every human engineering firm in his database. None had responded. The humans were not just withdrawing their diplomatic presence, they were withdrawing all technical support and expertise. 15 years of technological dependence was being exposed in the most painful way possible. The crisis was even worse in space itself. Captain Velanara of the Hegemony Freight Service was stranded at a refueling station in the neutral zone. Her cargo ship was loaded with medical supplies desperately needed on the plague worlds, but she could not complete her journey. The refueling station was one of thousands across the galaxy that used human-designed fuel processing systems. These systems could refine raw hydrogen into the specific fuel mixtures needed by different alien ship engines. The process was incredibly complex, requiring precise molecular manipulation that only human technology could achieve reliably, without human technicians to maintain the processors. The fuel being produced was contaminated and unusable. Ships that tried to use the bad fuel found their engines failing within hours. Velinara's own engines had been damaged by contaminated fuel from the previous station. She was stuck in space with a cargo hold full of medicine that would never reach. The people who needed it. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The vast network of space stations, refueling depots, and repair facilities that enabled interstellar travel had been quietly upgraded with human technology over the years. Now that technology was failing without human expertise to maintain it. Engineer Carlos Rivera had been the chief maintenance supervisor for jump gate networks across the Outer Rim. Jump gates were ancient alien technology, but human modifications had made them faster, more efficient, and more reliable. Carlos had spent 5 years upgrading gate systems and training alien operators. Now Carlos was back on Earth, watching helplessly as his life's work collapsed. Communication intercepts showed that gate systems were failing across 17 sectors. Without proper maintenance, the delicate quantum field generators that made faster-than-light travel possible were burning out. Entire star systems were being cut off from the rest of galactic civilization as their gates went offline. The aliens were trying desperately to maintain the gates themselves, but they lacked the deep understanding of quantum mechanics that made human engineers so effective. They could follow maintenance procedures when everything worked normally, but they could not adapt when problems arose. Human engineers had an intuitive grasp of quantum systems that other species found impossible to replicate. On Earth, Dr. Patricia Lee was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most secret project. While the galaxy had been dismissing human technology as primitive, human scientists had been developing systems that would make alien technology completely obsolete. The withdrawal from the Galactic Council had not been an emotional outburst. It had been the first step in a carefully planned independence strategy. Patricia's team had developed quantum communication systems that were 10 times faster than anything the aliens possessed. They had created jump drive technology that could cross the galaxy in days rather than months. Most remarkably, they had solved the problem of artificial gravity without the massive energy requirements that limited alien ships. The secret was that humans approached physics differently than other species. Where aliens focused on mathematical precision and rigid procedures, humans combined intuition with experimentation. They made logical leaps that seemed impossible to alien minds. They found practical solutions to theoretical problems that had puzzled alien scientists for centuries. While the galaxy struggled with failing human-designed systems, humanity was preparing to reveal technology that would change everything. Earth was not just withdrawing from galactic civilization. It was preparing to surpass it completely. President Bennett received daily reports on the galactic crisis with mixed emotions. He felt sorry for the innocent civilians who were suffering because their governments had treated humanity poorly. But he also felt satisfaction that the arrogant alien leaders were finally learning the price of disrespect. The galaxy had spent 15 years treating humans as junior partners who should be grateful for alien guidance. Now they were discovering that the junior partners had quietly become the senior partners. Without human innovation, human logistics, and human expertise, galactic civilization was collapsing into chaos. And Earth was just getting started. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything like this before. For the first time in 3 centuries, every single member species had requested an emergency session. The massive circular hall buzzed with desperate conversation in dozens of alien languages. Fear and panic filled the air as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss their shared crisis. Supreme Chancellor Mordok of the Council looked older than his 400 years. His usually perfect ceremonial robes were wrinkled, from sleepless nights spent managing the growing disaster. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the same grim statistics from every corner of known space. Trade down 90%, communication networks failing, food shortages on 40 worlds, medical crises spreading unchecked. "We must face the truth," Mordek announced to the assembled delegates. "Our civilizations are collapsing without human participation. What we thought was a minor partnership has revealed itself to be complete dependence." The Alterian delegates stood up with visible anger. "This is unacceptable. We cannot allow one primitive species to hold the entire galaxy hostage. We demand immediate military action against Earth." A chorus of agreement rose from several delegations, but it was quickly shouted down by others. The Kepler representative, whose people were dying without human medical supplies, was nearly in tears. "Military action will not bring back the doctors and medicines we need. My colonies have lost 30,000 citizens in the past month alone." The debate raged for hours, but every proposed solution ran into the same problem. Military threats would not force the humans to share their expertise. Economic sanctions were meaningless against the species that had already cut all trade ties. Diplomatic pressure had no effect on a civilization that refused to communicate, unknown to the council delegates. Their heated arguments were being monitored by human intelligence systems. Admiral Steve Parker watched the proceedings from his command center on Luna Station. As Earth's primary defense coordinator, he had spent months preparing for exactly this situation. "They are finally starting to understand," Steve said to his aide, Colonel Den Mitchell. 15 years of treating us like children, and now they want to threaten us into helping them." The screens around Steve's command center showed the positions of alien fleets throughout human space. The hegemony had positioned 3 battle groups near the outer colonies. The Drachnary Empire had sent warships toward the asteroid mining stations. Even the supposedly peaceful Epsilon Confederacy had dispatched armed vessels to human trade routes. But Steve was not worried. While the aliens had been dismissing human military technology as primitive, Earth's defense forces had been quietly developing systems that would shock the galaxy. Human ships were smaller than the massive alien dreadnoughts, but they were also faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons based on physics that alien scientists barely understood. "Sir, we are receiving multiple communication attempts from the alien fleets," reported Lieutenant Tony Garcia. "They are demanding that we resume medical and engineering support for their systems." "Let them demand," Steve replied. "Earth's position is clear. We are an independent civilization. We do not take orders from species that spent 15 years treating us as inferior." The first real test came when a hegemony battle fleet approached the human colony on Titan 7. Fleet Commander Grakener had been ordered to intimidate the human colonists into resuming fuel production for hegemony ships. What he found instead was a small human patrol vessel that refused to move aside. Captain Linda Wilson commanded the patrol ship with only 50 crew members. Her vessel was 1/10 the size of the massive hegemony dreadnought facing her. By traditional military thinking, she should have been completely outmatched. Instead, she calmly broadcast a warning to the alien fleet. "This is human territory. You are not welcome here. Leave immediately or face the consequences." Grakener laughed at the audacity of the tiny human ship challenging his mighty fleet. He ordered his weapons powered up, expecting the humans to flee in terror. Instead, Captain Wilson's ship simply disappeared. The human vessel had not run away. It had activated cloaking technology that made it completely invisible to alien sensors. While Grakener searched frantically for the missing ship, it reappeared directly behind his flagship and fired a single warning shot. The blast punched through the dreadnought's shields like they were made of paper. "How is this possible?" Grakener demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, sir. Human weapons appear to be based on quantum disruption principles that our shields cannot stop. If they had aimed to destroy us rather than warn us, we would already be dead." "Similar confrontations?" occurred across human space as alien fleets discovered that their technological superiority was an illusion. Human ships were not just faster and more advanced, they were operating on completely different principles of physics. Weapons that should have been impossible were common on human vessels. Defensive systems that alien science said could not work were protecting human colonies on Earth. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Adams coordinated the largest logistics operation in human history. Every human citizen in alien territory was being recalled to Earth or human colonies. Hundreds of ships moved constantly between human and alien space, carrying people, equipment, and most importantly, the accumulated knowledge that humanity had gathered during 15 years in the galaxy. Each returning ship brought reports of increasing desperation in alien territories. The Nexus Banking Consortium had offered to pay any price for continued access to human economic systems. The Quantum Collective was promising to share their most advanced technology in exchange for human engineering support. Even the proud Draknari Empire was sending gifts and tributes to human colonies, begging for renewed cooperation. But the most desperate messages came from ordinary alien citizens whose lives depended on human medicine, human food production, or human technical expertise. Nancy read reports of hospitals shutting down without human doctors, farms failing without human agricultural techniques, and entire cities losing power without human maintenance crews. "It breaks my heart," Nancy told President Bennett during their daily briefing. "These people are suffering because their governments were too arrogant to treat us as equals. But we cannot help them without rewarding the same governments that dismissed us for so long." President Bennett nodded grimly. "The galaxy needs to learn that actions have consequences. We offered partnership and cooperation for 15 years. We were rejected, controlled, and treated like dangerous children. Now they must face the results of their choices." Meanwhile, the alien delegations grew more desperate with each passing day. Some species attempted to send cultural ambassadors to appeal to human emotions. Others tried to bribe human officials with offers of territory or resources. A few even attempted to kidnap human experts and force them to work. All of these efforts failed against Earth's surprisingly sophisticated defensive systems and the simple fact that humans were no longer interested in alien approval. The species that had spent 15 years looking down on humanity were discovering that they needed humans far more than humans needed them. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely, and there was no going back. 1 year after Earth severed ties with the Galactic Council, Ambassador Helen Brooks stood at the window of her office looking out at something that would have been impossible just 12 months earlier. Alien ships from dozens of species waited in orderly lines outside Earth's orbital stations, not as conquerors or equals, but as supplicants hoping for an audience with human officials. The galaxy had changed completely. The old Galactic Council had collapsed within 6 months of Earth's withdrawal, replaced by a new organization called the Galactic Assembly. This new government operated on very different principles. Instead of treating humans as junior members who needed guidance, the Assembly recognized Earth as an independent power whose cooperation was desperately needed. Helen's first meeting of the day was with the new Alterian ambassador, Kekstar. The proud empire that had once called humans primitive now sent their most skilled diplomat to beg for renewed trade relationships. Kekstar entered Helen's office with the kind of nervous respect that Alterian officials had never shown to humans before. "Ambassador Brooks, my government wishes to express our sincere regret for any past misunderstandings." Kekstar began carefully. "The Alterian Empire recognizes Earth as a sovereign power and requests the honor of establishing formal diplomatic relations." Helen smiled politely but kept her expression neutral. She had been dealing with similar conversations for months as one alien civilization after another came forward to apologize for 15 years of condescending treatment. "What does the Empire offer in exchange for Earth's friendship?" "We offer full technological exchange, favorable trade terms, and recognition of all human territorial claims. We also offer to share our historical archives and cultural knowledge freely." It was a complete reversal of the Empire's previous position. For 15 years, they had refused to share their advanced technology with humans. They had demanded approval rights over human territorial expansion. They had dismissed human culture as primitive and unworthy of study. Now they were offering everything they had once jealously guarded, but Helen knew that Earth no longer needed what the aliens offered. Captain Tony Richards had returned from humanity's first independent exploration mission with news that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human capabilities. His fleet had established colonies on 12 worlds that the old council had declared off-limits to human settlement. More importantly, they had discovered resource deposits that would make Earth completely economically independent. The Empire's offer is generous, Helen replied carefully. Earth will consider renewed relations based on mutual respect and equal partnership. But understand that humanity is no longer seeking membership in galactic organizations. We are offering friendship to those who prove themselves worthy of it. Kextar's face showed relief mixed with humiliation. The mighty Alterian Empire was being told that they needed to prove themselves worthy of human friendship. A year ago, such words from a human would have been considered an insult worthy of war. Now they were accepted gratefully across the galaxy. Similar scenes were playing out as human representatives negotiated new relationships with alien civilizations. The species that had once looked down on humanity now competed desperately for favorable trade agreements and technology exchanges. Human colonies were receiving offers of tribute and gifts from worlds that had never acknowledged human intelligence. President Bennett reviewed the daily reports with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that humanity's true worth was finally being recognized, sadness that it had taken such a catastrophic demonstration to achieve that recognition. The galaxy had paid a terrible price for 15 years of arrogance and prejudice. The reformed Galactic Assembly had invited Earth to join as a founding member with full voting rights and veto power over major decisions. It was everything that humanity had been denied in the old council. But Bennett had politely declined the invitation. Earth would cooperate with the Assembly as an independent partner, not as a member subject to alien oversight. The new arrangement worked better for everyone. Human ships had resumed carrying cargo along major trade routes, but now they charged premium prices and accepted only the most profitable contracts. Human doctors had returned to alien hospitals, but only to worlds that agreed to establish human medical schools and respect human treatment methods. Human engineers had begun repairing the failed quantum relay networks, but only after alien governments agreed to fund human research projects and provide unrestricted access to their technological databases. Dr. Patricia Lee stood before the first interspecies science conference in human history, preparing to reveal discoveries that would shock the assembled alien researchers. For years, human scientists had been sharing their work freely with alien colleagues who dismissed human theories as primitive guesswork. Now Patricia was about to demonstrate just how far human science had advanced beyond alien understanding. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, Patricia began, addressing an audience that included the greatest minds from 50 different species. Today I will present the first practical application of unified field theory, something your civilizations have been trying to achieve for millennia. The demonstration that followed left the alien scientists speechless. Patricia's team activated a device no larger than a briefcase that generated a stable artificial gravity field, solved the faster-than-light communication problem, and produced unlimited clean energy simultaneously. The theoretical breakthrough represented an advance in physics that alien science had thought impossible. How long have humans possessed this knowledge? Asked the senior quantum collective researcher, his voice filled with awe and embarrassment. We developed the basic theory 15 years ago, Patricia replied calmly. We have been refining practical applications while serving as junior partners in your galactic community. The implication was clear. While aliens had been treating humans as scientifically inferior, human researchers had been quietly achieving breakthroughs that surpassed anything in known galactic history. The species that had mocked human physics were now realizing that humans had been working on problems that alien science could not even comprehend. The conference marked the beginning of a new era in interspecies relations. For the first time, alien civilizations approached humans as students, seeking to learn from teachers rather than superiors offering guidance to primitives. Human research facilities received funding and support from across the galaxy as alien governments recognized that humanity had become the galaxy's center of scientific innovation. Military relationships changed just as dramatically. Admiral Steve Parker found himself commanding not just Earth's defense forces, but also training programs for alien military officers who wanted to learn human tactical methods. The species that had once threatened human colonies now sent their best officers to study under human commanders. The transformation was complete when the Drachnary Empire, humanity's most vocal critic during the Council years, formally requested permission to model their entire military structure on human organizational principles. The proud warrior race that had dismissed human soldiers as weak and undisciplined now acknowledged that human military science was superior to anything they had developed in centuries of warfare. President Bennett's final act of the year was to address the reformed Galactic Assembly not as a member seeking acceptance, but as the leader of an independent civilization that the galaxy could not afford to ignore. His speech was broadcast to every world in known space, reaching billions of beings who had never seen a human before Earth's withdrawal. The galaxy has learned a valuable lesson about partnership and respect, Bennett said to the assembled delegates. For too long, civilizations have been judged by their age rather than their contributions, by their military power rather than their innovations, by their past achievements rather than their current value. Humanity offers friendship and cooperation to all species willing to treat us as equals. We offer our knowledge, our expertise, and our support to those who prove themselves worthy partners. But we will never again accept the role of junior members in someone else's organization. The universe is vast enough for all of us to prosper, but only if we recognize that every species has value and every civilization has contributions to make. The galaxy that had once panicked at Earth's withdrawal now celebrated humanity's willingness to remain engaged on equal terms. The species that had treated humans as dangerous children had learned that their survival depended on the very people they had dismissed. Earth had severed ties with the old order and forced the universe to build a new one based on mutual respect, rather than ancient prejudices. Humanity's place in galactic civilization was finally secure, not because aliens had granted it, but because humans had demanded it and proven they deserved it.